According to Vedanta, happiness belongs only to the Atman, not to your mind nor to the objects outside. It belongs only to the Atman. To the extent your mind is able to reflect that Anand, that joy, to that extent you will be happy. So, sab manya katha. If the mind is sattvic, pure, able to reflect the inner, already inherent happiness, which is an intrinsic part of your being, you will always be happy. If the mind is not able to do that, you will only be dependent upon objects to keep you somehow entertained. So you keep accumulating objects on the outside, which means what? Certain level of training of mind is required in order to understand the intrinsic nature of happiness. You see, suppose, let me just give you an example. Let us take example of Puran Poli, because we are in Mumbai. Now, somebody gets you one Puran Poli and you have it. Okay, it generated a certain level of happiness. Then second Puran Poli, you have it. Oh, after that, enough. Now, how Vedanta will analyze this experience? It will tell you, as soon as the Puran Poli came in front of you, your expectation of having enjoyment out of it created an agitation in your mind, a very strong vritti in your mind. That was, any vritti, any expectation, any enjoyment in the mind is actually illumined by consciousness, the Atman behind the mind, isn't it? Now, that vritti was illumined by consciousness. You had that Puran Poli. So the desire, the agitation was assuaged to a certain extent. That was also illumined by consciousness. And assuaging the vritti of agitation is what you are calling happiness, and you are superimposing that on the Puran Poli. You created an agitation. Did you get the point? You created an agitation and you assuaged an agitation. And the peace you got from it, you superimposed on the object outside. If you don't create the agitation at all, there will be nothing to assuage. There will be nothing to fulfill. And if you keep the mind very pure and clean, sattvic, the whole intrinsic happiness of the Atman will get reflected in the mind. So you have happiness without the object. Once more, I will help you analyze the situation. Please observe this carefully. Any object of enjoyment, say a rasgulla comes in front of you or a Puran Poli comes in front of you, the expectation to enjoy, get enjoyment out of that creates the agitated vritti in your mind, the desire to enjoy. Then consciousness is illuminating that vritti in your mind. Once you have that eatable, the mind is assuaged a bit, which means it calms down a bit. Again, consciousness is illuminating that vritti, and the mind is declaring, you see, that object gave you this calmness, this happiness, which is a wrong interpretation. The agitation and the assuaging of that agitation, both are the creation of the mind, and the wrong interpretation also is a creation of the mind. Happiness only belongs to consciousness. It is a property only of the Atman, reflected in the mind and wrongly superimposed on the object. This is the Vedantic understanding of happiness. If you keep the mind very pure and clear and don't create unnecessary agitations there, that happiness will descend into your mind even without the object. এখন এটা আপনারাই নিজে দেখুন এটা সম্ভব কি না. Try it in your meditation and see. A very calm, peaceful, balanced, absolutely pure, clear state of mind will bring happiness by itself. আর কোনো জিনিসের দরকারই নেই. We have all felt this, isn't it? When you feel bhakti for Thakur, when you feel a deep sense of calmness in your own system, you know you are happy without any object. But always this misunderstanding happens because of the nature of mind. Mind is gripped in Maya. Etakei bole Vishaya Vishayi Adhyas, which means the nature of the Vishayi and Vishaya has been confused. You have superimposed the joy born of self and reflected of the mind on the object. And you are declaring the object is the cause for my happiness. That is why you will keep chasing the object until you are able to understand at least this much. that no, happiness is a state of my mind. So this is the first step to coming out of this adhyas. To understand happiness is not inherent in the object. It is a state of my mind. And the second step is to understand it is not even a state of my mind. It is a property of myself, of the Atman within me, reflected in my mind and superimposed on the object. So a puro circle ta nijekei katte hobe. Eta bujhe nite hobe how it is working, how my mind is working. The mind is up to all tricks because it is under the grip of Maya. It is adhyas is part of your mental function. That is why there's a kind of haziness in understanding happiness. But if you observe it clearly in a state of mind which is close to samadhi, you will see this very clearly. That how I am fooling myself. The happiness inherent to me, which is part of my being, I invested that in the mind, into the mind. And the mind is by nature chanchal. It will throw it on an object, it will superimpose it on an object and give all credit to all kinds of objects around you. So the aim of your life becomes collecting this, collecting that, hoarding this, hoarding so many things, investing in relationships, investing in so many people, so that I require people to keep me happy. I require the mobile phone to keep me calm. Unless messages are constantly coming, well, it means nobody loves me, nobody wants me. All these silly conclusions and investiture of your psychic energy into wrong thoughts happens because of our inability to understand the signs of happiness. Eta apni niche deke dekhun how clear and absolute this knowledge is. It is happening in your own system. If you calm the mind, I told you till the level of going into samadhi, to that extent if you calm the mind, this will become a very clear thing. You are mistaking something for happiness and you are giving the credit to the wrong objects. Etar shambandhe ekta khub sundar golpa ache jeta apnake bolbo. There is a very beautiful illustration of this phenomenon in the Buddha's life. This happened when Gautam Buddha, after his enlightenment, he was moving around in those forests full of bliss, full of joy, and trying to analyze the human enigma, the human situation, why there is so much suffering. Why are we alienated from these fundamental truths about our own life? When he was thinking of this, he suddenly saw there a colony of lepers. Lepers, leprosy-ridden patients. In those days, there were no multi-speciality hospitals, so there were no such medical relief. And so lepers were actually quarantined. They were sent into the forest where they created a colony and they would live there. Food would be placed at the edge of the forest every day, and the lepers would take that food and they would live in that colony in the forest. So suddenly the Buddha came upon a colony of lepers. And you know what they were doing? First of all, leprosy, what does it do? It causes a lot of itching in the hands, in the feet, a lot of itching. And itching, it creates sores. Still the itching does not stop. So further itching, it creates wounds. And khoye jai puro hath. Apnara hoyto dekhechen. So it's a very pathetic situation. Still it keeps itching, and the wounds, there will be pus and blood and everything oozing out of it, but the itching does not stop. It is such a painful situation. To overcome that pain, these lepers used to light a bonfire morning and evening and burn their wounds in that bonfire to get rid of this pain. And they would call this experience happiness, relief. Watching this, the Buddha said, he was stunned at what they were calling happiness. And he said, the leprosy-ridden patient is the desire-ridden mind. It will itch unstoppably because the desire is there, the agitation has been created. You itch and itch, you create a sore. Further you itch and itch, you create a wound. Then to assuage that wound, the pain born of that wound, you will hold that wound on fire. You will burn the wound of your mind on the fire of sense pleasure, the result will be more wounds, but you will call that happiness. See how he is analyzing the human situation. Why is it that our mind does not understand these simple facts of life? A very sattvic state of mind naturally brings happiness. But no, we will create an agitation, we will create a sore and a wound, burn it on the fire of sense pleasure, and then we want to call that happiness. Why do we do this? This is simply because the mind lacks training and spiritual practice. Shaijane bhajanananda etto important. Getting a taste of higher joys in life. Sadhana, that is why it is so important. Once you get a taste for bhakti, Thakur eta koto bhabe bolechen, bhakti shar bolechen, jivaner shar holo bhakti. Once you get a taste for these higher emotions, you get a taste for higher awareness, you will not invest your energy in burning wounds. You will not invest your energies in chasing objects. You will not make the wrong equations. So this basic understanding must come into our life. Amra Thakur Mar Jivani Podi, we must be able to draw from that life, that these lives are so independent of external circumstance, so independent of external objects. Please observe and see. Thakurer Jivani apni dekhun. Once, this Dayanand Saraswati came and saw Thakur's Samadhi. Thakur Samadhi te boshe achen. And seeing the look on his face and the tears rolling down his cheeks, Dayanand Saraswati said, these Mahapurush, these people have actually tasted the butter. Or amra ghol khachi. We are drinking the buttermilk. The very look on Thakur's face would change. He would radiate light. And he would radiate such bliss that the people around him, tar bhave bhavit hoy jetora. I don't know how to translate this into English. They would catch that bhav perfectly. Thakur jakon bhav samadhi te, he would dance in the room. All the people would get into that mood. Like actually a whole multitude of mad people, it would appear like that. To a person who did not know bhav samadhi, it would appear like that. Like, what is this mob up to? They would all be dancing in ecstasy. So it ki kore shambhav, the luminosity of his mind, ability to render this level of joy to other minds. This is a possibility. Eta shambhav, such a level of joy that it simply overflows and pours into other minds. All great souls are able to manifest this level of joy. Ekdin keu Thakur ke jigyasha koreche, Samadhi ki jinish, what do you exactly feel in Samadhi? And Thakur said, will you understand if I say, if a fish is released, which was restricted to a pot, is released into the waters of the Ganges, Ganga jale jadi chhede dewa hoy, that splashing joy of that fish, something like that, my mind feels that liberation in Samadhi. That's why he could not contain himself. See, the nature of happiness, it absorbs and consumes you. Isn't it? The nature of the highest joy. That which does not absorb you cannot give you joy. Knowing this, you must distance yourself from merely sensory level happiness. It simply doesn't befit us. Especially when we have come under the wing of Thakur Ma Swamiji. Please see this. There are such high flights of joy and bliss available to us. So a taste for that we must be able to get into this life. Get it in this life. That is the whole purpose.